Hello, welcome to yet another installment of Dwayne Allen Guitar Concepts. And today I'm going to put today's lesson in the intermediate category. We're going to talk about learning how to do the swing rhythm and learning how to start improvising over a jazz tune. Okay, so this is for those of you who have been playing rock, blues, pop, whatever, and you want to start learning how to improvise over a jazz song. Okay, so basically, the first thing that you really got to learn if you're going to play jazz is you got to learn how to swing. Okay, swing is basically the main rhythm that's used in most jazz. Now, there's all kinds of jazz nowadays that use different kinds of rhythms, but traditionally, the main rhythm used in jazz is what we call the swing rhythm. Okay, and the swing rhythm is different than if you were to do like what we're going to actually learn is swing eighth notes. And what I'm trying to say is the difference between swing eighth notes and even eighth notes is basically this kind of a sound. So even eighth notes is when you're playing, let's say, a scale, and each note is equal in length. So like this. Right? Each note is dun, 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 dun. They're all equal in length. Swing eighth notes are basically when the first note is long and the second note is shorter. So it's long, short, long, short, long, short, long. So it's kind of, this is what you would call like a swing eighth note. Right? Some people like to describe it as if you were doing triplets. So like, let's say if this is the tempo, 2, 3, 4, triplet, 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 triplet. And what you're doing is you're doing a triplet, but you're getting rid of the middle note. So it's triplet, 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 triplet. That's basically how a lot of people like to describe the swing eighth note sound, which that's a pretty decent way to think about it. So the thing with jazz is if you want to sound good playing jazz and sound authentic, you really need to learn how to swing, because that's the heartbeat, that's the feeling of jazz. And really, this, it's kind of a feel that you have to get into your bones and into your blood. And really, the main way to get a good swing feel in jazz is you have to listen to a lot of jazz. You have to listen to a lot of jazz that swings, especially stuff from the 40s and 50s where swing was the main rhythm. Later on, some other rhythms became part of jazz, but you have to really listen to a lot of it. Myself, I was like a hard rock guitar player when I was a kid. And hard rock is very, very kind of straight, da, 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 right? So when I first got into jazz, I was not very good at swinging, and it took me a long time to get the feel. So I had to listen to a lot of jazz. But you can practice swinging too. And the best way to practice swinging is just doing scales while you're working on that swing rhythm. So for instance, I'm going to play like a B-flat blues scale, but I'm going to swing it, okay? And the reason why I'm going to show you a B-flat blues scale is I'll show you how you're going to start utilizing that scale over a jazz blues, okay? So here's a metronome. I'm going to go a little slower than that. So basically, this is a click on every beat, and I'm just going to take a basic B-flat blues scale. I'm assuming you guys would know that already. So it's going to go like this. Instead of doing straight eighths like this, I'm going to swing it. 1, 2, ready, go. Like that, right? I always tell my students, if you can't swing your scales, you're not going to be able to swing when you're improvising. So you have to actually practice swinging. So that's a great way to do it. So what I tell my students is, let's say you learn all your different forms of the blues scales, which is what I teach my students, but I'm just going to play them. I'm not here to teach you guys scales right now, but I'm just using the idea. So I might sit here and practice all my blues scales in the key of B flat, and I'm going to swing all of them. So I'm going to go. And then I'll do another one. sound relaxed. You want to go dot, 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 dot. That's not making it swing. It's got to be really loose and relaxed. I already did the first one already. Let's do the next one. So like you go. You do another one like that. So you want to be in time with the metronome, but you don't want to be real stiff. Ba, 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 ba. It's got to be do, 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 do. It's a feel. You have to get the feel going. And like I said, really the only way to do it is you got to listen to a lot of jazz. Okay? So let's say you get your scales down where you're swinging like that, and it sounds pretty decent. Sorry, my nose is itchy today. It starts to sound pretty decent. Then what I would recommend is get some backup tracks going. So I'm going to play like a B-flat blues, but it's kind of like, it's same chords as a regular blues progression, but it's going to swing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice swinging my scale over the backup tracks. So that way you'll get used to playing with a rhythm section sound. Okay, so here we go. This is just a B-flat blues. So, as you can probably hear, when there's a blues progression going, there's chords are switching from one chord to another. But the most basic way of playing the blues, as you know, if you're a blues player already, is you can use the blues scale over the whole entire form, over the whole 12-bar form. Doesn't matter if you're on the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, you can still use the blues scale over the 1 for the entire time. Now, jazz musicians go beyond that, but if you're working on your swing rhythm, you can do it the simple way, where you play the blues scale over the entire thing. So I just practiced swinging my scales. I would recommend doing that with a metronome and then with backup tracks. Now you want to try to do a little solo. Okay, now here's the one thing that's a big difference between playing a jazz blues and a rock blues. Okay, in rock, you're doing a lot of bending and vibrato. So if I was going to solo over that, I might go. That kind of thing, right? That's traditional blues, rock blues, with a lot of bending and that kind of stuff. If you want to play traditional jazz blues, you don't want to do that. Jazz guitar players don't tend to do a lot of bending and vibrato and all that. Now, I'm basically telling you what's stylistically common, okay? Anyone can do anything they want over anything, really, in the long run. You know, Mike Stern, who's a great jazz guitar player, he blends a lot of rock phrasing in jazz, and he's an amazing guitar player, so he makes it work. But I'm just telling you, like, in general terms, jazz guitar players don't normally do a lot of bending and vibrato and all that kind of stuff. Now, some of my students ask me, why is that? Okay, well, one of the main reasons is the older jazz guitar players would play these big hollow body guitars that had really, really thick strings on them. And those kinds of strings are very hard to bend, okay? So there's not a lot of bending going on. And they didn't play really, really loud with a lot of feedback. So when you hit a note, like B.B. King, when he hits a note, he's cranked up pretty good. You know, and he's letting that note ring and sustain, and it starts to get feedback. Jazz players don't really do that. So the thing with jazz is it's all about rhythm and swinging, okay? So I want to add one element into that. So when I say rhythm, what I'm talking about is swinging eighth notes. But then there's another aspect of playing jazz, which is called syncopation. Syncopation is a huge part of playing jazz. So syncopation means you're playing on a lot of offbeats. So if I'm going do dit 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 do 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 dit ba do da, right? You see I'm playing a lot of notes on the upbeat. That's called syncopation. Okay. So the two main rhythmic aspects of jazz is swinging and syncopation. I want you to remember that, okay? So if you're going to start learning how to play some jazz, you actually don't need to learn a whole bunch of new scales and crazy concepts. You can take the blues scale that you already know how to play, and you just apply swinging and syncopation to it, and you'll start sounding like a jazz player. If you listen to certain guitar players like Kenny Burrell or Grant Green, they actually, there's times when they play a blues that they really don't sound that much different from a traditional blues guitar player. They're not playing, I mean, sometimes for sure they're playing more complex harmonies and stuff, but a lot of times they're just playing the blues scale. It's how they're playing it, which is what differentiates jazz from blues, okay? So I'm going to play a little solo over this B-flat blues, and I'm going to play very simple. I'm not going to play anything fancy. I'm only going to play the blues scale, but I'm going to work on playing swing eighth notes, and I'm going to play syncopated on the offbeats. And I'm going to take rests, okay? So you're going to hear what it sounds like. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was doing? Very simple. I'm just playing the blues scale, and I'm swinging eighth notes, and I'm playing syncopated, and I'm sounding relaxed. I'm not go, right? That's lame. That's like stiff. You want to go. Swing eighth notes, syncopation. It sounds very jazzy when you do that. I've heard sometimes where I've been to a jam session or a gig or whatever, and you'll see like a blues player sit in with a jazz group, and sometimes, you know, they'll go in there and do, and it just doesn't sound right, it doesn't fit in. But some of the blues players have great ears and a great feel, and they may not know much theory or anything like that, but they'll go in and they'll just play simple like that. They'll just go, they know to do that, and they're just playing the blues scale, and it sounds great because they understand, oh, okay, when we're playing jazz over a swing rhythm, we have to change the way we play, okay? So I would recommend, if you want to start getting into learning how to improvise over jazz, just get a swinging blues progression. This one's in the key of B flat, but you could do it in any key. And just practice soloing using your blues scales over that, but only working on that swing rhythm and the syncopation. And I would recommend doing different blues scale forms as well. So I'm going to do another solo, and I'm going to use some of the other blues scale forms. And we just want to focus on rhythm. All the stuff later on, chord tones, modes, all that kind of stuff, that comes later. In jazz, the number one priority is grooving and swinging and just rhythm. If you get the rhythm down, the grooving down, everything else will come in time. So I'm going to play one more solo, just using a couple more of the B flat forms, but I'm going to focus on swinging. Here we go. Remember to take breaks. Leave space. Don't be afraid to repeat a lick. That's called repetition. Repetition's important. Simple, but it swings, it feels good, it sounds good, hopefully. I hope you liked it. But you want to make people, if you see people moving their heads like that, then you're doing the right thing. If they're not moving their heads, something's wrong. You're not grooving. You're not making them feel good. It's got to feel good. It's got to groove. That's the first thing you're going to learn in jazz. And if you're going to learn that, do it over a blues, because the blues is simple in general, right? There's not a lot of scales you have to learn. Learn it that way, then later on you can learn more advanced things. So swinging, syncopation, practice all that. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you like the lesson, hit the subscribe button, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good one.